All right. So now when our web part is ready, I think we'll see if there is anything left. We'll see it later. So right now, I think we are good with the web side. So the admin panel and the web version of student side of things. Now for mobile, first thing we will have mobile, the student related stuff in our mobile app. We are not going to have admin panel in our mobile app. Okay, that I already mentioned. And then, so the mobile side, it should start from login and register. Okay. So if we see in our web project, we have in pages, auth, we have login and register, these two pages. All right. But now we need these two pages in mobile as well. So we can maybe copy these two things and move there, but that is not what we want because we want to reuse as much as possible. Okay. So that means we somehow need to reuse these two pages, login and register. What we can do, if we see our project structure projects, we have share.components project, which is actually a Razor class library. So we can move these auth pages to the shared components project. And then we can use these directly from the shared component in our web project in and in our mobile project. Okay. So here what I'll do, I'll simply cut this auth. I'll go to shared components. I'm going to create a new folder here. I'll call it pages. So here let's right click, add new folder, and we'll name it pages. And then we'll paste that auth login.razor and register.razor. Okay. Now, when we move these here, we need to fix all these things. The first thing, we need to have empty layout in the shared components. So here what we'll do, we'll create create a new folder and we'll name it layout, and we'll move our empty layout to this layout. So let's cut empty layout from here, go to shared components project, paste it here. Now we have our empty layout here. But now we have one more situation. We need this quiz auth state provider. Okay, so right now this quiz auth state provider, this is in our web project in auth folder, right? But we need this thing in both of our projects. So it's good to move this as well to our shared components project. We can technically move it to shared as well because this is a class, but inside this we are using navigation manager, we are using IGS runtime. So it should belong to shared component, which is actually a Razor class library. To make the intent clear, the shared is actually just class library. It will have only C# related logic, nothing related to Blazor or anything. But shared component, this is Razor class library, which is actually Blazor. So we will move this thing as well to this shared components. So let's cut this auth folder, move to the shared.components project, this as well. And then we'll change the namespace. So we'll say blazing quiz dot web. No, right? Blazing quiz dot shared dot components dot auth. Save it. Now if we see, it is not able to figure out Microsoft ASP.NET Core Components authorization. We need this package and we need system.identitymodel.tokens.jwt. These two packages we need. Okay, so if we go to web project, here if we check, we have this component.authorization, this package. So we can copy this, or you can right click on the shared components project and manage NuGet packages and install these packages. But I already have these, so I'll simply copy these. So this authorization package, let's go to shared components. Here we can create one item group anywhere. We already have this. So here only we'll add this Microsoft ASP.NET Core Components authorization, and we need system.identity model.tokens.jwt as well. So this also we are going to get from the web project, and we'll add it here. So save everything. Okay, now let's go to Quizot state provider, and it is not complaining about those things now. We are good. We'll see if it is working on runtime or not, but right now we just want to move the required files, and then first step is to build it successfully. So that means fix all the compile time errors. All right, now let's go to empty layout. Here we just need to have our using statement correct. So we'll cut it from here and we'll add it to underscore imports.razor in our shared components folder. We'll have it here. And now our this empty layout should be fine. So this is fine. Cool. Now let's go to pages auth login.razor. Now here empty layout, we'll add this using. So let's have cut both of these using shared and shared components layout and move this to the imports.razor. Save it. Then web.auth, we need these? I don't think so. Let's remove this. So save everything. We already have iapp state. This we already added in our shared project, so we are good. Now if we see login DTO, we don't have this. If we use the using statement, it is from share.dto. So let's have this at the rate using blazingquiz.share.dtos as well in underscore imports.razor. Save it. And now we are good with that as well. What happened here? Bind value, this input tag, it is not able to figure out, but we'll see what else needs to be done. So here we are good with this. There is only one error right now, this iAuth API. This is not yet here. Let's see what we can do for this. But before this, let's go to register.razor as well. And here also we can remove these two things now because we have these in underscore imports.razor. So we don't need these here. And looks like we are good. We just need to fix iAuth API. Now if we see iAuth API in our main web project, this is actually in APIs folder, iAuth API, which is actually a Refit interface. So we need this Refit installation in our shared components project as well. So let's copy it from web project refit.http client factory. Let's copy this. Go to shared components and paste it here. Save. And then we can move the APIs to the shared components. Now, do we need all these APIs? So no, we don't need all these, right? We need iAuth API right now. Then later we'll need iStudentQuiz API. So right now, let's move iAuth API only. Then we'll move whatever we need. Okay. So in shared components project, let's create a new folder. APIs, and then cut this iAuth API from APIs folder in web project and paste it inside this APIs in shared component. Here we'll go and we have all these things ready, so we are good. Now let's check login.razor. We need to add this using, so let's cut this using from here and add into underscore imports.razor. Save. Let's again go back to login.razor. Now it is able to figure out this and then register as well. It is complaining about this thing, maybe because this is not able to figure out this input text and all this. And this should be because, okay, let's see, maybe these are just false warnings. Now we'll try to rebuild this shared component only. We are not building any other project right now. We'll just see if this builds or if there is any error. So we have errors here. We have login.razor bind value along with corresponding values. The attribute could not be inferred. So somehow it is not able to figure out all these input text, edit form, all these things. Let's right click and let's see if build action is content. Yes, let's do this. Let's unload this project because we are directly moving things here and there. So sometimes it does break. Then we'll see what else we can do. Save everything. Try to maybe clean and then build. Let's see. Okay, so these are the errors. We'll see what we can do. Register async, it is not able to get this method. We have that register async method here. Modal input text. Okay, let me do this. Let me close the Visual Studio and open it again first. Then we'll see if these are actual errors or not. All right, now I have this. I opened it again. And now we'll see edit form is still not there, and all these are related to forms only, right? Edit form, data annotation. So these comes from, if we go to the web project underscore imports.razor, here if we see, we have this ASP.NET Core components forms, routing, web, these are by default added in Blazor WebAssembly application, but because this current shared components is a Razor class library, so these using statements are not directly there. So what we'll do, we'll go to underscore imports.razor and we'll add these explicitly here. So web we already have, routing and forms, save, and let's check the login now, and we are good. Login is fine. Register still is not fine. There is some, and it is again, it is also fine. Empty layout, quiz auth state providers. So the model is not still working. Let's see what is the problem. The using statement. So for this, we have this using blazing quiz shared components.components. Let's cut this and go to underscore imports.razor and add this as well. Save it. Again, let's go back to login.razor. Everything is fine. Register. Everything is fine. We can see this model here as well. Then empty layout and quiz auth state provider. Save everything. And now we are good with all these things. Cool. Now first thing we'll do, we'll go to the web project and we'll get the web working because we moved stuff here, so the things will break there. So we'll first get the web working, then we'll use these things in our mobile application, in our MAUI application. All right. So let's go to the web and let's do this. Let's just build it. So we'll fix build time errors first, then we'll fix other errors. So now first thing is quiz auth state provider is not there. If we add this using, it is now in blazing quiz shared components auth. So let's cut this thing, go to the underscore imports.razor and add it here. So the web.auth, this is complaining because we deleted this folder, we moved this to the shared component. So let's cut this thing from here, remove this and add the shared components auth folder in underscore imports.razor. Okay, let's try to build the web project again. Now we have this one more error. Web.auth is not here. Yes, we know this is not here now. So for this quiz auth state provider registration, we'll use the correct using. Remove it. Save it. And again, let's try to build it. And build succeeded. Now build is succeeded, but it will not work. Why it will not work? It will not be able to go to the login page. And that's because if you know about Blazor, by default, if we added any Razor class library, it allows that Razor class library, it allows those components to be used in our main Blazor application, but it does not allow uh, to use routable components. These routable components, it will not able to figure out if this route auth slash login it is in there in the application or not, because by default what it does, it directly searches the pages in the main application. So if you go to the main page, which is app.razor, here we have this router. Here we are saying that app assembly is type of app.assembly, which is this current project only. So from this current project, it will check all the razor components. It will check for all these at the rate page attributes, and it will create a route table. But it will not go to the razor class library to check the routes. So if I start it right now, we'll see it will not be able to figure out login and register pages. It will be able to figure out all other pages because those exist in our main project only. Application API would be fine. But for this web application, sorry, there is nothing at this address. And what is the address? /auth/login. But we know that page is there, but that is not directly in our main WebAssembly project, in Blazor project. That is in a separate file, separate project. So we need to tell this router that there are routable Blazor components in somewhere else as well. And where? For that, on this router, we have one parameter, that is additional assemblies. Okay. So in here, we can provide enumerable of assemblies, so a list of assembly basically. So here what I will do, we'll simply create a new array and we'll provide assembly of shared components. So we need to have some file from this shared component. We can have anything. Let's use this quiz auth state provider because this exists in there only. So we'll say type of this blazing quiz.share.components.auth.quiz auth state provider. Now we have access to that file, and from here we'll say .assembly. Now we are saying that there are additional assemblies which has routable Blazor components, and those are this single assembly. Right now we are setting it. You can provide multiple assemblies here if you have multiple class library razor class library projects which has multiple the routable Blazor components. Okay, so now let's save it and let's start it again. Now we'll see if it is able to go to that login component, login page. API, and here we can see our login page. You see, let's try to logging in, and we are using this. Now let's try to refresh this, and it is refreshing fine. That means our quiz auth state provider is working fine. It is able to, we are able to save the data in our storage, right? We are able to save the data in storage, fetch it, start it, navigate to login and register pages. All these things are working. Let's log out and let's try to go to register page. So this is also working, and API connection is also working. So we are good with this initial setup. Now we need to make some changes in quiz auth state provider as well, but we'll do this later when we'll need this. Not much later, but soon, but not right now. Now, when we have this login and register pages working in our WebAssembly project, let's get these working in our mobile application as well. Okay. So in this mobile app, if we go right now, we have MAUI program. We have main page.xaml where we have our Blazor web view, and the main entry point is index.html. And from that index.html, we are actually calling this routes.razor in components folder. So routes.razor has this router. Okay. So same thing applies to this as well, that it will not be able to figure out the login and register URLs. those components. So we need to add the same additional assembly parameter on this router in this mobile application as well. So let's go to app.razor and let's copy this additional assemblies parameter. Come to this routes.razor in our mobile MAUI application and add this additional assemblies. Save it, and now we should be good. Let's quickly see if we are able to get the login page up and running. So for this, what we'll do, in our layout, in nav menu, let's quickly have one link for login page. So we'll say href auth/login and login. Save it. Now we need to have this mobile project as well running. So now what we'll do, we will not have these multiple startup projects. You can have if you want, or maybe let's have it also. So we'll go to properties. Multiple projects are already there. So in mobile, we'll select start as well, apply, okay. But before that, we need to select mobile and select the Android emulator, launch emulator, so that it directly runs the application in Android emulator. Let it running. So I guess this is okay. This is fine. Now we'll again go back to the, or maybe we have one more approach. What we can do on the API project, we can right click, go to debug and start new instance, start without debugging. So we'll use start without debugging. We don't want to debug anything in the API. Or alternatively, you can start the API from CMD, from terminal command prompt as well. Okay, the API is running. Now let's try to run this mobile application. So I'm running it. So it will take some time because we are running it for the first time. App is starting up. Let's see. Loading. And we have this. Let's open up menus and log in. We have some error, and unhandled error has occurred. And what is that error? Let's open output window. And here we'll see it is saying cannot provide a value for property quiz auth state provider. Okay. So now let's stop it. The problem here is those login and register pages. If we go, these are using this empty layout and these are trying to inject quiz auth state provider. Now for web, we are registering this quiz auth state provider in our program.cs. If we see add cascading authentication state, singleton, add authorization core, these things. But we are not doing these things for our mobile application. So we need to do these things. We'll have other errors as well, but we'll fix those one by one. So first let's do this thing. Copy this. Go to the mobile application and there we have MAUI program.cs and here we'll do these things. Okay. Save it. And again, let's try to run it. App is here. Let's again try going to login. It says initializing state. And then I don't know if anything is happening. Okay, so let's see what we have. This is saying initializing state and why it is not going further. If we go to quiz auth state provider and no, this is not in quiz auth state provider, right? This is in this should be in empty layout. this quiz or state provider, this is saying initializing state, so this is kind of stuck in this loop. This is not, because this is initializing is not false. That's because if we come here, we have try, we have catch, we have finally, so somehow it is not able to come here, right? What happened? It got stuck somewhere in between. Let's try to check if we can see anything in output. And I don't think we can see anything. So let's do this. Let's put breakpoints. I'm adding breakpoint in is initializing async. Yeah, then let's add in catch and finally blocks. And let's restart the app. It is coming up. Let's go to login page. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. So what is happening here right now? We are not initializing it. If we go to the web project and if you remember in app.razor, was that in app.razor? Yes. In app.razor, we had this call on initialized async where we were initializing this quiz auth state provider. But this is not what we are doing in our MAUI application. This is, so what we'll do, we'll simply copy this thing. Let's go to our MAUI application first. Let's stop it. Go to our MAUI application. In here, what is the Blazor's entry point? That is this router component, this routes.razor. So here only we'll have this thing. Let's add this using statement and then let's have this initialize async like this. Save everything and let's again try to start the MAUI application. Loading, and oh, we have this breakpoint, right? Let's continue from here. Disable hot reload, we are okay with this. It came to catch, and here if we see, it is saying, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Let me maybe, I don't know how to make it bigger, but I can read this for you. Maybe I have copied this, right? Let me paste it here. Yes, great. This thing, so it reads this system dot invalid operation exception cannot invoke JavaScript outside of a web view context. And what we are doing here in this initialize async method, we are trying to run JavaScript and we are trying to get item from local storage. Okay, but because this call is happening outside of web view, that means this call is not inside any direct razor component or things like that, it is not working. So on the other side, there it works because everything is working in browser inside that Blazor WebAssembly, but here the things are different. So we need some workaround for this. So that workaround is going to be, we will not store items in local storage when we are in mobile. So when we are in mobile device, Android and iOS from .NET MAUI side, we will use devices storage. Okay, so we can use secure storage, we can use preferences, we can use maybe SQLite database. So it's up to you how you're doing this. And because in browser side we have local storage, so we'll use local storage. We will not change the existing behavior what we have on Blazor WebAssembly side. So now this thing needs to be dynamic, but we have this thing in a centralized place only. So what is the approach we can take to make it dynamic on platform dependent? So for this, what we can do, we can actually have an interface for the storage, maybe iStorage or iStorage service, and then we can have device or platform dependent implementation of that interface. So for web side, for WebAssembly, Blazor WebAssembly in the web project, we will have one implementation which will use this local storage. And then we'll have one implementation of that iStorage service in our mobile .NET MAUI application where it will use preferences. Okay, so that thing we'll do next.